Welcome back to BBB Adventures and our ongoing effort to refresh Luna, our 1962 Corvair Greenbrier camper van. This week's episode is going to pick up where we left off on part 12 a few weeks ago, where the driver's door and the rear side door were being prepared for reassembly. It's time for me to use my brush on a stick with some of this Permatex rust treatment, and I'm going to do my best to coat the inside of the door with this. And yeah, that's what I'm going to do now. And then I'll let that dry overnight, and then I'll make an assessment. But I think that's going to make a pretty good head start on getting these doors ready to reassemble. Let me show you what this is doing. Hopefully you can see down there, but it's this white foamy type stuff, and what it'll do is it'll convert that rust into, I don't know what it converts it into, but it's some chemical reaction with the rust, and tomorrow that'll all be black, and it stabilizes the rust and prevents it from spreading. So I'm just going to continue to paint the inside of this door, and we'll check in later. Okay, well, I've made some good progress. Let me show you. So, to the extent I think it's possible, or I was able to anyway, I got that stuff coated all over, and now it's going to dry, and it's going to do its conversion and convert whatever rust was in there to, you know, to this black, probably iron oxide. I don't know what it is. Iron oxide is rust, so I don't know, but it stabilizes it. And then I will inspect it when it's all dry and decide whether I'm going to put some paint inside there. I'm thinking maybe a coat of Rust-Oleum, black Rust-Oleum, along the bottom of the door where the water, when it rains, the water runs down inside the door and it sits down in there. I mean, that's the biggest normal place for rust, is in those joints. So I'll probably Rust-Oleum at least the bottoms of the doors, but yeah, I'm gonna let this sit overnight again and cure, and I'll check in tomorrow. Let's go to the shop, doggy. Well, I guess it's been a few days since I worked on the door. I've been working on the wing window assembly for the driver's door, which you may or may not have seen yet. I don't know the sequence of where I'm going to put all this together, but I'm back working on these doors, and let me show you. I painted that rust stabilizer, and anywhere you see black is where there was some level of rust, and the converters converted it to something that's supposed to be more stable, and so it looks pretty good. But I've decided I'm still going to put a coat of black paint on the bottom of the door, just some Rust-Oleum, because it's the bottom of the door is where the water and dirt and other stuff sit and create the rust. So any extra level of protection that I can provide seems like it makes sense. So I'm just gonna put a quick coat of paint on the bottom of the door. I'm gonna use the same stick with a paintbrush on it to paint that that I did to paint the other stuff, the rust stabilizer. So I'm not going to film that. I'm just going to do it, and I'll show you the results. Got the bottoms of the doors painted with some white Rust-Oleum that I had sitting around, and then I painted this flange the body color. I had some touch-up paint in a little can, so I just brushed that on. I taped it off and brushed it on really quick, just to rust protect that. But you can see the bottom of the door is now white. So that the inside of that door is treated enough. Now I'm going to paint this. I already did this side, so I painted this frame and this this piece. The paint match is pretty good, but I need to paint this frame and that piece, and the same thing on the driver's door. So that's probably next in terms of door prep. But also, I'm working on these pieces. These are the tops of those doors, and there's rubber foam gasket material like this that was in there that I need to get out of there. I need to prep this side, I need to paint this side, then I need to prep and paint this side. These things need to be prepped and painted. So I'm going to spend some time today prepping and painting these various door parts so that I can put the doors back together. Yeah, anyway, I'm going to work at this. Now, I got this wheel off Amazon to do some other stuff, and it's this rubbery wheel, and you can see here it's working pretty good. It's supposed to not hurt the paint, but it's supposed to take off adhesive and stuff, and I didn't have it spinning for very long, and it works pretty good. So I'm going to keep doing that and get these prepped. I'll show you how that works. Anyway, that works really good. So I'm going to keep doing that. I've used this wheel and this wire brush and this scraper and this plastic razor blade to get all that adhesive crap off there. I've used the sandpaper to sand down the surface rust that was on here. So the back of this is ready to be cleaned up and primered and painted. I still have to clean the inside of this one. I also am going to wet sand the pretty side of these and get these all ready to paint. If you use a wire brush on a drill, you better wear safety goggles, because these wires have known to come loose and go right into people's eyes. So you should never use a wire brush or a grinder or actually anything else in the shop without safety goggles on. I got these things done. They're ready to be cleaned, but I want to wet sand the surface of these. So I got some 1000 grit sandpaper. Yeah, 1000 grit wet sandpaper. And I'm just gonna sand on this surface, get it smooth. Trying really hard not to sand anywhere down to bare metal, because I don't want to prime these. I want to put the new color right on top of this factory paint. Nicely dulled up, ready to go. Now I'm going to do the same to this one. Okay, now I've got some clean water, and I'm just going to wipe these down with water to try to get a bunch of the big dirty stuff off. Now, if you live in a humid area, I live in a desert, but if you live in a humid area, wiping parts that have exposed metal like this may not be a good idea, because rust can set in pretty fast in humid areas. But here, I don't really have to worry about it. This water just evaporates super fast here. Okay, now I'm going to wipe these down with some paint thinner, which is basically mineral spirits. Just so I'll make sure they're nice and clean, so the paint will adhere nicely. The primer, actually. Here's another safety tip. If you're using solvents and rags, don't throw them in your trash can. Don't throw a bunch of wet rags into a trash receptacle, because they will spontaneously combust and burn your shop down. Spread them out. Spread them out for a day or so. Let the solvent evaporate. Spread them out so there's a lot of surface area for the stuff to evaporate. And don't put them in a garbage can until they're good and dry. Taping these off to protect the pretty side when I do the backs. And I'll have to do this in reverse when I paint the pretty side, although I'm going to care less if I get some of the nice paint onto the backs. But I'll probably tape it off. I got them all taped. So these parts are ready to prime. I've set up a little paint area in here. So I'm going to move all the parts in here, and so I can put a layer of primer on them. This is the stuff I'm going to wipe them down with. It's the next day, it's time to put some color on these things. Disco doesn't like my mask. These panels are the inside of the doors. Nobody's ever going to see them, so I got a color that approximately matches the interior color of the van. Update on some progress on some of these projects with Luna. If we go around, this is the front door that I'm going to paint. I already did that one. I did the passenger side, now I go to the driver's side. So I got this all wet sanded, and so you can see I've got it taped off. I'm going to paint down to here. And so I've got this masked off the way I want. Now I got to finish masking this. I got to cover this. I got to get this all ready to go. So that's what I'm going to do next. While the furnace heats it up in here. It's actually warmer outside than it is inside because it was very cold for the last, we had this cold spell and it cooled the building off. And now it's warm outside. It's going to be warm for the next few days. So I think it's okay to paint. The furnace can get the temperature up here up, and then it should stay up because it's not that cold outside. So I'm gonna keep masking. Okay, I got the masking done. Let me show you what that looks like. So I've got the door, the part of the door I want to paint, all masked off. I got the rest of the van that I don't want, and the tools on the wall and that sort of stuff covered up with tarps, drop cloths, whatever. So yeah. And then I've wiped and prepped this surface. I've wiped it with a cleaner, a de-waxer, greaser, and then some alcohol. And I'm gonna make sure that's good and dry. And yeah, I'm about to get started. And then over here, I've got the top to the door prepped, wet sanded, prepped, everything as well. So I'm gonna paint those two pieces today. But I'm gonna turn the furnace off so it doesn't blow a bunch of dust around. I got it pretty warm in here. Well, unfortunately, I ran out of paint. But the stuff I did looks pretty good. So I'm going to leave the shop, go to the auto paint store and get another can of paint. I thought the one can would be enough, but clearly one can was not enough. It's disappointing because I wanted to get it all done. Now I got no choice but to let it dry for a few days, wet sand it, and put another coat on. Not the end of the world. Okay, well, that's it for now. About a half an hour later, I ran to the paint store and they mixed me up another can of this paint, and I talked to them and they said I don't really need to wait. I can continue to paint even though it's been a bit of a time. So I'm gonna get this shook, I'm gonna put my mask back on, I am gonna get this done. Okay, it's been about 20 minutes and it's flashed over. So I'm gonna start to pull some of this tape. I'm gonna wait to take this part off because it doesn't touch any surface and I want the paint to be good and hard in case I bump it. So that's gonna do it for now. Well, it's a couple of days later after I painted this and I took all the masking off, and I don't know what the camera's gonna pick up, but it looks, I'm quite pleased with the results. So yeah, I finally got this door, this rear door, ready to paint. So you can see I've got the rest of the van sort of the rest of the van with some drop cloths to protect it. I've masked, I put masking paper. I think I've got everything protected that I don't want to paint. And under here, I'm finished with my treatment of the rusty areas. It's reprimed, rust stabilized. I've pulled this gasket off. I don't think I filmed any of that, but I pulled this old gasket off. It was just absolutely shot. And I have new ones. So I scraped all the adhesive off, and this has all been wet sanded and cleaned, and it is ready to paint. So, and then over here, I have the top panel to that door that's ready to paint. So yeah, I'm gonna paint. now that I got all the masking off, you can see how well the color matches, I think. But this is painted, this was painted new, this part wasn't. This is new, this part wasn't. This is just a little more metallic-y, the new paint, but the color match is quite good. This was not painted, this was painted, so it's really close enough. So I'm quite happy with it. So this door is ready to be reassembled. Oh no, that's not true. I gotta put the new molding or the new weather stripping on it. I think I am gonna wait. I'm gonna postpone that. Maybe I'll put the window in first, because I want this paint to be good and cured before I put the adhesive on for the weather stripping.
Well, that catches you up on how I prepared the doors for reassembly. In a future episode, I'll show you the installation of the new window channel and fuzzies and the windows. We'll also get back to preparing the refreshed powertrain to be put back in the van. That's right, I'm actually going to put the engine back in the van after an entire year.